What's up YouTube, this is Collect Pokemon and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I want to talk about booster boxes and elite trainer boxes. I've talked about this topic before, but I want to revisit this topic again from a very different perspective, which is to incorporate the idea of overvalue versus undervalue. But before we do that, we first have to set what value is. Now, the MSRP between booster boxes and elite trainer box has changed over the years. In older sets, elite trainer box costs around $39.99, whereas the booster boxes cost around $143. In the newer era, we can see that there is a $10 price jump for the elite trainer box at around $49.99 and $161 for the booster box. So by dividing these two numbers, what we can get is that a booster box in the older era is around 3.6 times more expensive than a elite trainer box. And in the modern era, a booster box is 3.2 times more expensive than the elite trainer box. So basically the 3.6 and the 3.2 is the baseline in which we are going to compare values and how things has changed over time. Now, I want to go way back into the X and Y era, and because that is the era where most of the sets have elite trainer box, and I just realized that Flash Fire didn't have elite trainer box, so that was something new. And this number here is simply by dividing the booster box, the price of booster box, divided by the ETB, the price of ETB, and this comes out as a ratio. So a ratio of 1, meaning that you could either use $3,500 to buy ETB or $3,500 to buy a base set XY booster box. Is that simple? These values are these values I pulled from eBay as a snapshot. So I mean some of these older sets was harder to find the value. So take it with a grain of salt. Now here's the thing. Now we can see that from the XY era, traditionally that 3.6 number, this is an average, the 3.6 times more expensive has changed to around 2. So what that means is that the elite trainer box are doing much better than the price of the booster boxes. We can see growth, stronger growth, as it deviates, as it decreases from the 3.6. Basically what it means that the booster box might be just double the elite trainer box from the original 3.6 times. So in this era, we can see that some boxes are doing really well. Things such as Furious Fist, the elite trainer box is actually more expensive than the booster box. And things such as Primal Crash and so on. Now, later on, when we see Ancient Origin, Roaring Skies, we see these and the elite trainer box, the value proposition of elite trainer box seems to be less convincing, especially for evolutions. Well, we need to also understand something, because I've been in this hobby way too long. I've realized that evolutions elite trainer box got a huge reprint like right in the end, and this really caused the price to dip. And for example, Roaring Skies, the booster boxes got a huge reprint, and that is why when the elite trainer box didn't get the reprint, we see a much more expensive price of the elite trainer box. So we need to take into account whether the quantity of these elite trainer box versus booster box and which one of them are going to get reprint. I'm going to mention this topic about reprint again much later on because it would make sense later on. Now going into the Sun and Moon era, the Sun and Moon era, we can see that, hey, it is still doing quite well, 2.9. And it is still far below 3.6, and this means that the elite trainer box has greater value or has appreciated in value a lot faster, a lot more than the booster boxes. So we can see some sets such as Celestial Storm, it's doing great, Unbroken Bond, doing great, Unified Mind, doing great, Cosmic, yeah, getting there. But things such as, let's take a look at Team Up. Not so much, okay? Team Up is around at the 3.2. Crimson Invasion 3.7, meaning no one actually wants the Elite Trainer box. People would rather have the booster box. Same with Burning Shadow here. So you can see that, some of these sets, the patterns is much more difficult to find. And yeah, that's that. Now, going into the Sword and Shield era, things are going to get very, very interesting. We can see that this number got inverted. Remember, in the Sword and Shield era, I think prices started to change. Did it? No, actually, it didn't. Actually, this should be 3.6. So it actually didn't change yet. So it should still be 3.6. And here we can see that the average number here is 4.3. Meaning that the booster box, the price of booster box has gone up much faster. They've appreciated much faster than the Elite Trainer boxes. And this is going to be very interesting because the reason for this is because that the Elite Trainer box was printed to the ground. I can tell you that, closer to the end of Sword and Shield, we got reprints of Silver Tempest, Lost Origin Elite Trainer boxes. We also got Evolving Skies Elite Trainer boxes that was printed to oblivion. Same with Darkness Ablaze, as well as even Fusion Strike. I had tons of these. I wanted to get a booster, I couldn't, so I got a bunch of these Elite Trainer boxes. And this really explains why the growth hasn't been there yet. But I think over time, as time goes by, these will appreciate. Or if you want to say it, is that the booster boxes are overpriced. I mean, look at this. This is a 6.9 times difference between the Elite Trainer boxes of Evolving Skies and the booster boxes of Evolving Skies. So, you're getting a way better deal buying the Evolving Skies Elite Trainer box. So you could say it's way undervalued. Looking at the average value of 3.6, we should be expecting Evolving Skies Elite Trainer box to be at least $800 to $900, but we're not seeing that, and I think that has to do with the reprint. So that is some numbers to keep in mind. Now, what is interesting is that as we move into the Scarlet and Violet era, the number has dropped back to 3.3. So this shows that the appreciation of the booster boxes as well as the Elite Trainer box are on par with each other. They're both growing in a very, very similar pace. And so, yeah, I think that, you could even call this organic growth or whatever, but, they are growing at a similar pace. And there's nothing that is undervalued or overvalued. But here's the thing. I do believe that that is because of the lack of reprints for both the booster box and the Elite Trainer boxes. And that's something that, we're going to see happen. Now, what is interesting here is not about what we see here, but what we are going to see with the mega sets. With the mega sets, we are going into the mega set that is really hot. And most people can't get booster boxes, and most people can't even get Elite Trainer boxes. Now, the question I have for you is, if you were Pokemon, the Pokemon company, would you rather print more booster boxes or Elite Trainer boxes if you suspect that there's not enough cards out there for people to open, for people to, play the game? And my answer to that is that I think that they're going to print a lot more booster boxes. So when we hit reprints, when we see reprints, the reprint is going to be more of a booster box reprint than a Elite Trainer box reprint. And that's something that I think is likely to happen, because a lot of LGS are not getting booster boxes. Meaning that a lot of people can't play Pokemon cards because that's where you play Pokemon cards. You go to LGS and they host tournaments, they give prizes out, and so on. And I think that more booster boxes might be printed in the Mega era, and a lot of the time, the Elite Trainer box might be just one wave and then it's gone. So I think that, it was true that, during the Sword and Shield era, Elite Trainer box was such a bad investment because it's bulky, it's heavy. But nowadays, I think we are going to shift back to the Sun and Moon or the XY era where Elite Trainer box seems to be a better investment. So it's really going to be interesting to see what is going to happen in the future. And I want you guys to, share your thoughts in the comment because, hey, this is my own personal interpretation and you guys might see something different. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think going into the mega era, Elite Trainer box are the ones to buy? Or, use this data as a reference point as to, how much you should pay for a Elite Trainer box versus a booster box. If someone is selling Phantasmal Flame, for example, for $360, and you know that the ratio should be 3.2, so what you should be looking at around $90. So I mean, if someone is selling 360, equals that divided by 3.2, 112. That would be a fair price for a Elite Trainer box, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. This is Collect Pokemon. Bye bye.